Will robots take over? A question you hear all the time, more relevant now than ever. But with the rise of AI and other technologies, should we be worried? With every major upgrade of major AI models, should we be worried just as much as we are excited? There's really no way to tell. Unfortunately, all we can do is live in the present and hope for the best, crossing our fingers that humanity doesn't screw up big time. And with that being an actual legitimate possibility in the future, how can we prepare? If only there was some way to prep ourselves for the inevitable future run by our robot rulers to be. Well, dear viewers, in the year 2018, a bald Frenchman gave us a terrifying peek at our cold future. Enter Detroit, Become Human, a story following 3 android robots and their journeys becoming sentient and learning to live alongside humans. In the year 2038, Detroit is the android capital of the country, and with all good things come bad things. What happens to these androids is up to you and your decisions. As humanity watches the rise of sentient androids referred to as deviants, the country becomes politically split, and ultimately, whether or not androids become a thing of the past or a thing of the future is all dependent on the choices you make. If you humanize things that aren't living, how likely are people to accept living alongside them? Much like David Cage's previous works, every decision you make affects the story, and there's a million different things that can happen. But this game takes that to a whole new level with 3 intertwining stories. Although this game was first teased as an interactive demo in 2012, it wasn't until 2018 that PlayStation 4 owners got the privilege of interacting with 9 hours of Rule 34 potential. So with the crippling fear being spoon-fed every day to me on Twitter, I'd like some reassurance that the future isn't as scary as it sounds, and I'm certainly not getting that from Twitter. Let's go back to 2018 and give another look at the only good thing the French have done in the past 900 years. This is Detroit, Become Human. You start off with Connor, a detective cop android whose job is to analyze crime scenes with the police and effectively neutralize deviants, though his ultimate goal is to have gay sex. We're introduced to Connor's main mechanic here, which is scanning shit. You scan things to learn about the case. Immediately after stepping out of the elevator, some annoying bitch is sobbing her eyes out, but then she notices that Connor's an android and gets all pissed about it. Call me skeptical, but I'm willing to bet that this type of conflict is the basis for the next 9 hours of gameplay. Before we step into the apartment and begin our mission, let's get some things straight. Walking in this game is very clunky, and I know that's done purposely, but I can't even begin to tell you how much that backfires. They try so hard to make all your movements seem natural and flow alongside your surroundings, but it's not always going to look great. And if you try to fuck with whatever algorithm decides the changes in animation as you move, you get fantastic results because the game tries to make your movement look so serious, but meanwhile you're just walking into a wall. The left bumper changes the camera angle, often to a temporary fixed position that the devs thought would be best for that specific area. And very early on, we see what our mission is. This fish is straight up dying on the floor. We then get this stupid ass picture of it. They use the same info box layout as they do for real people for some reason. So you kneel down to it, and the way it pops up on screen, it looks like the game's about to tell you the family and home address of this fish. Like, why would I give a fuck about this random fish? Is this an Easter egg of some kind? Was this fish on the dev team? I'd like to re-emphasize the goofiness of this camera. Your control stick input changes based on the direction the camera's facing. So if you just jump around with different angles, it starts to look like Connor has no clue what the fuck he's supposed to be doing. A detail I'm on the fence about is the lack of reactions from the people around you. They never say anything. I can just walk into someone and then stare at them, and they'll just stand there like a cigar glued to a table. On one hand, it kinda can take you out of the mood of the scene, making it feel less real. But on the other hand, it's fucking hilarious. By holding R2, Connor can scan his surrounding area and see his objectives. We have to talk to Captain Allen, and he's a dick to Connor, but rightfully so. In situations like this, it's important to collect as much information as we can in order to get a favorable outcome. But sometimes Connor just has the dumbest shit to say. Did you try its deactivation code? What a dumb fucking question. We don't even know what's going on yet, and this dumb fuck is asking them the android equivalent of, did you try unplugging it and plugging it back in? Did you try its deactivation code? What if they didn't? What if they were just like, oh fuck, we forgot about that? Like the entire world has been dealing with murderous robots, and we just forgot about the deactivation code. What a stupid fucking question. Anyway, now we can walk about the apartment and check shit out. Here's where we're introduced to Connor's ability to make hologram recreations of murders, even though the only thing he's done is scan 2 stationary objects with no formal explanation of what he's supposed to be doing, nor of what's actually going on. By scanning the gun and the ammo, we can see that the deviant took the father's gun. Okay, well, see, that's where the dad went wrong. If you ever own an android in a home with a gun, always remember to turn off its ability to shoot you with it. We go into what appears to be the daughter's room, and then Connor just starts playing with her iPad. I get that as the player, we're supposed to be piecing together what's going on, but why in God's name does no one just tell the robot detective what he's here for? Because I'm gonna go out on a limb here and guess that based on the presence of SEAL Team 1, it's probably a very serious situation. But clearly something happened with this family's android, and there's some shit going down now. Child didn't hear gunshots. Yeah, she didn't hear gunshots because she had Dollar General headphones on. What the fuck logic is that? And finally, we understand what's going on here. The android went batshit and took the kid as a hostage, and there's a standoff going on outside. Jesus Christ, why did the robot detective have to walk over to the Samsung smart fridge to figure that out? And this doesn't even clear anything up. So the entire SWAT team was just watching Connor rescue a fish while this 6-year-old has a gun to her head? I'm surprised they didn't just shoot the girl and call it a day. And then this is who they call in? The goldfish cleanup crew? What the fuck kind of hostage situation is this? So you walk over to the kitchen and whoopsie daisy, there's a dead cop on the floor. Turns out this cop was playing real life Superhot VR and sucked ass at it because he missed the deviant's head and then got his right heart ventricle perforated like an idiot. Why is this event even relevant right now? At the very least, this brings the dead cop's gun to Connor's attention, so now he's packing heat. I can't get over how casual of a situation this is being treated as. Connor turns the stove off and is just looking at magazines, and someone's actually just getting shot in the background. Like they're actually dragging in a corpse and they're just letting Connor dick around in the kitchen. So over here in the living room, we got the dead dad. Bro is cooked. He did not stand a chance. I'd love to have been here for this. None of this makes any sense. Amidst all this chaos, at what point did the robot decide to walk over to the front door and shoot the fish tank? Wouldn't it have just made more sense to kill the entire family? After Connor connects together some of the dumbest dots I've ever seen, he starts licking things off the floor. It turns out that this blue stuff is in all androids and acts as some kind of component in how they function. Eventually, while I was taking a tour of the house, the game told me to hurry the fuck up and force Connor outside. Thankfully, I get shot immediately, and I play it off like a total badass. Now we start the negotiations. The goal here obviously is to do whatever it takes to get the girl safe. I have to use my smooth talking skills to convince this deviant that the 35 armed men pointing guns at him aren't about to shoot him. During these types of missions, you'll get this probability counter that lets you know if you're moving in the right direction or not. Daniel tells Connor to drop his gun, and for some reason he actually does. A major part of this game is unlocking event paths. When you do certain things or talk to certain people, you get to use that information later on when dealing with conflicts. Because I saved that fish, I now know that this family was planning on replacing Daniel with a newer model, and that's why he went all batshit. After I do some glazing, he gets all cranky about the giant aircraft hovering 5 yards away from him, which honestly is reasonable. We tell the heli to fuck off using the universal gesture for telling helicopters to fuck off. Then it fucks off. He starts telling Connor his demands, and honestly, how long has he been out here? These cops have just been sitting inside while a sentient robot is standing on a ledge with a gun and a 6-year-old. Do they not care? No, this is just a normal Wednesday in Detroit. After convincing Daniel that his brains won't be blown out, he puts the girl down and within seconds immediately gets his brains blown out. After talking him down from the ledge, the android's final memory will be of Connor lying to him. Jesus Christ, what a shot this is. The kid is crying in a pile of glass, Daniel's dead and covered in his own blood, and the body of a cop is floating in the pool. And with that, Connor's mission is complete. After each chapter, you get to see a flowchart of all the possible interactions and outcomes. It's a great way to keep track of all the different ways you can fuck up and die. The scale of paths and how many there are is quite impressive though. The next mission starts with a scene in an Android store. It's really bizarre. Not even from an Android perspective, but from a human one. You're going into this store and an Android employee is trying to sell you another Android, all of which look like people. I don't understand how these sickos aren't turned off by the idea of buying people. It's like society saw human trafficking and just knew it was too good to go, so this is how we dealt with it. All the fun of human trafficking, but legal. All you can do is look around, but then this fat, gross idiot walks up to you, and you learn that you're not actually a new Android. You just needed to be repaired, and now you're fixed. Apparently you were hit by a car, but obviously you weren't. The writing isn't very subtle here. They might as well have just wrote in that she ate a TV and then blew up.
Did you give it a name?
My daughter did.
AX400, register your name.
Cara.
So this walking meatball reveals that the android's name is Cara, as in she got hit by a Cara. Welcome to the game. Yes, we know you've been playing for 40 minutes already. Check out this fictional world we made up called Michigan. I will say though, it is a very interesting montage that highlights the legitimate problems of a hypothetical society relying on machines and the sad reality that comes with a world being drained of authentic human interaction. As goofy as certain things in this game can be, there definitely is a genuinely interesting message here. And like all important messages, this next one starts with a robot walking to a store to buy paint. Welcome to the mind of Marcus. This is where you begin to see how androids are being implemented into our world. Androids picking up kids from the park, androids helping old people up from the bench, androids jogging with their owners and watching them drink water, I guess. Wow, it's just so incredible. The collision is so interesting. Sometimes you'll get pushed away from someone, but it might take like 10 seconds before you actually get pushed. It's bizarre. And the lack of reactions from anyone you're practically on top of just makes it a bit uncanny. Throughout the world, you'll come across these magazines, but these ain't your daddy's magazines. These are future magazines. A flat, thick tablet with no bezel and one purpose. Probably the most inefficient thing this game makes up. Why would magazines be their own device? That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard of, especially when these magazines are comprised of 4 whole pages, and there's one just sitting here on the park bench. Why wouldn't I just use my phone like a normal person? This is like textbook future. The magazines are made of robo-paper because it's the future, and everybody knows the future is all about single-use robo-magazine paper. It's all the rage. It's such an unfathomable waste of resources, and then you open them up just to get some of the worst articles you've ever read in your life. Like, who the fuck wrote these? It was probably that fish on the dev team. Climate change up. What the fuck kind of wording is that? This just in, climate change is up. Breaking news. Nothing specific happened. We're just letting you know that yes, the world is still burning. How can the writers let me, the uninformed idiot player, know that the global issue relevant today that is expected to get worse in the future still exists and is getting worse? This whole thing is so unspecific. Water's rising, ice is melting, the air's getting hotter. Like, yeah, really? Thank God the writers put in this generic article about vague climate issues, so I know that this is taking place in the same universe as me and not some alien timeline. The game does a lot right, but sometimes the writers just don't know subtlety. If there was some kind of tragedy related to climate change, then the player could piece together that, oh, I'm watching the consequences of our actions play out in the near future. But instead, it's just an article saying that climate change still exists and is a problem today in the same way it was a problem 20 years ago. There's like a million things about these articles that I could talk about forever, but I've got paint to buy. Our next big challenge is crossing the street. I was very taken by the idea of getting hit by a car. The game prevents you from leaving the orchestrated area, so sadly, being run over by a car is a bit more of a challenge than appears on the surface. In a lot of areas, there's little scenes you can lock the camera onto and watch. I guess they're supposed to highlight society's uses for androids, but some of these are just hilarious. These android construction workers are complete idiots. One is just playing on an iPad, another keeps electrocuting a pipe, and this one is jackhammering the same spot over and over again, even though nothing's happening. What a comment on America's blue-collar, lower-middle class. Android work ahead. Clearly they don't. So you have to wait for a green light before crossing, so I just stand on the sidewalk and wait. Eventually you can cross, but I just stood in the street waiting to get hit by a car. After like 2 minutes, the game just forces you across the street. There's a lot of going-ons in the city here, but sometimes the devs don't really expect you to pay too close attention to the little details. This android taps on this invisible keypad on a cardboard box, then struggles to make it past the sidewalk. Speaking of struggling to make it past the sidewalk, no one in this game struggles to walk more than gay people. This gay couple could not for the life of them keep hold of each other's hands and just walk normally. Fittingly, the slightest change in a straight path causes them to freak the fuck out. It is a shame how lackluster the human interaction in this game is, and it's odd because there are certain pieces of dialogue locked behind some kind of physical interaction with another person. But if 99% of the NPCs here won't blink at me when I stare at them, then why would I bother trying anyone else for a reaction? It's kind of funny how the game insists on paying attention to the world around you, but then struggles to react to you, and in certain cases just completely ignores you when displaying a cinematic shot. Like, I know I'm floating on this tiny sign, so why doesn't the camera shot acknowledge my giant android feet floating 4.5 inches off the ground? Anyway, Marcus has to pick up some paint, presumably for his owner. He's a bit lost. It's like a labyrinth in here. You pay with your mind and the paint's all yours, but not before reacting to this QuickTime event. This is really where the game puts your skill to the test. You try leaving the paint store and on we go. If you ever need to know what you're supposed to do, don't forget you can always hold right trigger and get a rundown of objectives. In this case, we just need to make it to the bus stop. But that's easier said than done for a dumb fucking robot like me. These protesters want to cause some trouble and kick Marcus to the ground. Like that's gonna make them employed. It takes a cop to threaten them with a fine to return Marcus to the standing world. No more bullying. Marcus gets up and is able to make it to the bus stop. I tried getting on the bus, but I noticed this sign saying androids banned. So I get on anyway, and this is the best. The camera tries to point out the no android sign to you as you get on, but the game just fails to actually focus on it, so you can't read what it says. And it's the majority of the shot, so the only thing in focus is this thin sliver 30 feet away on the very right of the screen. Turns out I can't sit with the humans and have to stand in the back of the bus. Not very subtle. We all just stand in the back and inertia just doesn't apply to us for some reason. Sharp turns mean nothing. And that's all for our first rodeo with Marcus. Taking the bus is the only outcome here, sadly. I was hoping that there was some way to die. Back to Cara. Todd is driving them home, and they live in the shittiest neighborhood I've ever seen. This is considered Silicon Valley in Detroit. This next QTE is very challenging. It took me a while to figure this one out. The goal here is to open the door, and to do so, you have to maneuver the right analog stick in a continuous counterclockwise fashion, but positioning the beginning of the wind at 3 o'clock. Thankfully, Todd has the patience of a saint and is willing to wait while I figure this one out. Once I scale the mountain that is opening this door, I can walk around freely in the front yard. There's an oddly shaped cloud floating about 1.5 yards above the sidewalk that coincidentally spells out "Join Todd," but it fades away after a few moments. You can look at the construction happening around the house, which is exhilarating. Rebuild North Corktown, a better place to live. All because of these androids. Is this really the best Michigan has to offer? At this point, what else has Detroit given us? M&M, the Red Wings, hardcore pawn, the no parking zone sign, and now in 2038 they give us androids. Aren't we lucky? Truthfully, the most unrealistic thing happening here is this fat white guy's patience, which is surprising given how antsy he was being at the android store earlier. Welcome home. Just as beautiful as I expected. I don't know what's more inviting, the unpaid bills next to the front door or the recently used crack pipe on the living room coffee table.
What are you looking at? Get the fuck out of here.
Todd is watching the world's most vague hockey game. It doesn't even look like college, it looks like high school. And there's fucking no one there.
Cara!
Yes, Todd?
Bring me a cold beer!
What irrelevant TV station can I watch this unimportant hockey game on? Also, I'm sure I don't need to say it, but this is just a 15-second loop of random things happening. But despite that, Todd still tells us to fuck off.
I'm sorry, Todd.
He's just glued to the screen. Doesn't want to miss the big game. Our goal right now is to just clean up the house. You know, pick up all the garbage, wash the dishes, bring in the laundry, empty the ashtrays, all the normal stuff. Then trying our best to make it to the curb and throw it out. In the backyard, we get a chance to talk to Todd's daughter, Alice. She doesn't speak.
You look bored.
Cara says what is grammatically equivalent to nothing and still somehow scores brownie points with Alice. So Cara starts doing the laundry, but it seems that someone has made the common mistake of storing their small Ziploc of red crack in the laundry detergent. Now, let's not kid ourselves. We've all been there. There's no shame in it. Todd's not cool with it, though. I love that he's pissed about this. Such a paranoid cheesehead. You want the robot to do your laundry, but you left your fictional red crack in the laundry detergent, and then get mad when the robo-maid doesn't dissolve it in the washing machine with your clothes. Like, what logic is this? Well, with the laundry started, I've decided that I won't be doing the rest of the downstairs chores and instead inform Todd that I'll be getting cleaning upstairs. This is where Todd's assholishness really shows. He starts smoking crack in the living room, but doesn't even have the common decency to offer you some. Upstairs is a treat. We have to clean Todd's room first and really get a look into his vibrant personality. He's a big sports guy. His team is the Detroit Crimson Sharks. I wonder how much it would have cost David Kage to use the Red Wings, though I guess that would have bid into his 5th yacht fund. I love this. So Todd has this magazine lying in his room, and it's all about self-driving cars. So you read into the article, and it starts talking about how these self-driving cars make life and death decisions. In a hypothetical scenario with 2 pedestrians where someone getting hit by a car is unavoidable, the car will scan and compute the people in front of it. It'll even look into police records and gather data on who has a wife and children, who has a criminal record, their life expectancy, occupation, and some other stuff. But the idea of a car assigning a value to a human life based on their contribution to society is just bizarre. As if the car is the one making the decision in under a second. Right, so this way, if you're ever in a situation where you swerve and avoid hitting the brain surgeon, you can rest easy knowing it was the minority that you ran over. Do you guys like scrubbing shit? This QuickTime event involves scrubbing shit in the bathroom. As the player, I'm upset that I don't get to watch Cara do it. I was really looking forward to seeing Todd's fat shits he leaves floating in the toilet. Before moving on from Todd's room, we do him the courtesy of putting away his pills. After a quick scan, Cara finds out that these are actually Todd's antidepressants. What an interesting move it is to put it next to his gun. Like, is that some kind of hint from Cara? As if he wants his antidepressants to be within arm's reach of his bed and decides the correct place to keep it is in the gun and pills drawer. You know, the drawer you use specifically for one handgun and a bottle from CVS. This is like the Detroit equivalent of keeping a phone charger next to your bed. Moving on to Alice's room, they give her the most cliche little girl's room conceivable. Cara goes over to talk to her and, oh, would you look at that? I'm no genius, but I'm willing to bet that her mother is dead. So that's gotta be the correct thing to ask, right?
What about your mother? Will she be home soon?
If you ever walk into a broken home, always ask where the missing parent is. It's a great icebreaker. But after an awkward interaction, she runs out of the room, but not before running back dramatically and handing Cara a key. The game then very subtly points out exactly what the key is for by putting a neon blue unlocking graphic in front of this box and focusing the camera directly at it. You open the box and here's your lore. Now, this is the dumbest way you could possibly explain this situation. It's pretty clear that Todd's an abusive, drug-addicted father and Alice is the scared little girl missing her mother. But if you somehow were unable to catch on to that, no worries. The game is here to literally draw it out for you. Now, listen, I love this game, But Jesus Christ, could the writers be any less subtle? They want me to believe that this little girl drew all these conveniently storyboard-like drawings of exactly what happened and laid them out in this specific order to compose a detailed narrative in anticipation of me coming back from the repair shop, then waited for me to be upstairs so she could run out of the room, give me the key, and then hope that me, a robot, would make the decision to not only invade her privacy and open the toy box, but also look at the drawings in the correct order so that I can understand what happened. What kind of 6-year-old is doing this? I can find the sentiment to be sweet, and it's certainly endearing that the game tries to explain the situation through the drawings of a scared little girl, and I can find the heavy emotional tone of this scene to be very thought-provoking, but this whole setup is just so unrealistic. The idea is fantastic, and in my opinion, the best way to fill in the events that preceded the start of the game, but the way it's done here is just like, what? Maybe the explanation of my relation to a new but clearly important character shouldn't be so blatantly and literally handed to me like 20 minutes after I walk through the front door. But anyway, you head back downstairs and see Todd just be a piece of shit to Alice. He really is a fucking idiot, and not in the way that he's a douchebag, but he can't even be a good douchebag.
Say it! You hate me!
Like he's screaming at a mute 6-year-old and then cries. What a lame drug addict. And that was the scene. I'm gonna stop there for now, but I'd love to come back soon and continue the stories of Connor, Marcus, and Cara. There's so much more of Detroit to see, and so many more intense hostage situations to treat like a joke. This game made such an impact when it came out back in 2018, but somehow I feel that instead of falling into obscurity, this game has slowly become more relevant than ever. In a day and age where the official US government Twitter account posts Studio Ghibli AI-generated images of immigrants being detained, somehow I feel that we need to look back at this game again and give it another chance in the spotlight. Maybe the rise of AI is only concerning in the moment and not in the future, but the only time that the present matters will be in the future. But what do I know? Thank you to all my patrons, and I wanted to say that yes, I know, and yeah, probably. Memberships are also now available on this channel if you want another way to support me and my slop. The only thing I guarantee you is the privilege of using this Princess Jane sticker in the comments section, and I want to say thank you to YouTube for approving my submission for the member title. I submitted Brain Dead Viewer, and it was approved in under a day for some reason. I'm Bearman, and I've been wasting your time. Thanks for watching.